Hi guys, welcome to Saba's Vibe, a place where we discuss love, light, and everything in between. Today we're going to be discussing psychotropic drugs, and we have an amazing guest, David Taylor. Welcome, David.
Hi, Saba. Thanks for having me on your channel today. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Now, David, I know that your background is the financial industry, but you're also a quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner. That is essentially where we connected.
hmm
And I know that you have some experience with ayahuasca, and that's why I wanted you to share with our guests pretty much what your experience was and any pointers or any advice that you can share with our listeners. Now, I will admit, I come with a background that was totally shut down and closed down to ayahuasca until I pretty much started connecting with a lot of amazing souls that were brave enough to go ahead and be the ones laying the foundation for others like us to say, really, is it okay? So, welcome, David.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's really interesting that you had that experience with ayahuasca because I also had, a lot of reticence towards um, doing ayahuasca. A lot of people were telling me how scary it was. People were telling me, oh, I know this guy that did ayahuasca and now he walks around the streets as a crazy man. And I was really freaked out about it. And I was like, what's up with this? But as you said, I went into QHHT, which is a hypnosis technique, and I did a training in Peru. And a lot of people there were doing ayahuasca and coming to the class the next day. And I was like, well, if they can do it and then don't seem to be going crazy, then why can't I?
Yeah, and then in watching all of you, I thought the same thing. I thought, well, they're just normal people. Like they're fine. They're my buddies, they're my friends. And
Yeah.
there are some things that I went to ayahuasca for to get some, I've been through a lot, and those of my listeners that know what I've been through. So it was time for me to really get in there and do the nitty gritty. What brought you to it?
hmm Yeah, I guess it's the calling. And a lot of people talk about this is that you have to be called to do ayahuasca. It's not something that really one person should force upon another. Because I believe then that other person takes on the responsibility. And it has to be your own responsibility. You can't be blaming the other person for your journey. So, in total, I did ayahuasca 8 times, 2 times in Cusco, Peru, and 6 times in Soul Quest in Orlando, which is great. But I have to say, it was actually my last journey in Soul Quest in January 2020, which was the most profound. It was the most earth shaking. I mean, they were all great, but some of them were, less great than others.
Yeah. So that's the funny thing with ayahuasca. What I found is that less great, meaning we got to clarify, is it hard and it was just difficult, or less great can mean it was too rough or not rough enough. Do you know what I mean? There's different ways, because
Mm-hmm.
I found my really bad one, my rough journey,
Mm-hmm.
was the best. I
Me
got
too.
much worse. So when we say the one that you last had, that was really rough or just flowy, how was it?
It was rough in the sense that I had to tear up a lot of, beliefs and conditioning and programming that I had. Uh, actually, after the 2 journeys in Peru, for 5 journeys, I would drink like literally a full cup of ayahuasca in Soul Quest, 3 tablespoons, and I would just, for most of the night, I would fall asleep and I
Wow.
would just wake up the next day, and it was what I found out is that I was actually resisting. I was resisting, and it was the last journey where when I basically just really let go. I thought I was letting go before, but it was that last journey in January where I really made the conscious effort to really let go, and that was the roughest journey and the best journey at the same time.
So now when you say really let go, so you were basically taking the same amount of ayahuasca in all the other journeys, correct?
pretty much the same amount, 2.5, 3 tablespoons was my typical dose.
Mhm.
Once I think I did 3.5. Um, but as they say, sometimes the dose isn't the most important thing. Sometimes you can have a more profound journey on 1.5 tablespoons compared to 3 tablespoons.
I actually did half of a spoon
Hmm.
on both journeys, and they were so profound. But I was
Hmm.
super lightweight. So
Oh
yeah,
no, that's
yeah.
I think it's less is more in a lot of cases. It's
Yeah.
you don't have to be bravado and how and bragging about like I don't want to do that. I want to have a good journey.
Wow. So now for those watching, I guess the question is, why did you do 9 or 8? Because I've had people ask me like, well, why do you want to keep doing it? Or because I met some people there that did it 30 times or 20 times. And really, until you've gone through it and really seen what it can do, you really wouldn't understand. So for the listeners, why do you think people do it repeatedly?
Well, in my opinion, people call it working with the medicine, and in my opinion, it's like an onion where you're peeling back the layer. And so your first journey, you might peel back a layer, and the second journey, you might peel back a layer, and you're always integrating the experience after peeling back a layer of the onion. You learn something about yourself, and then you integrate it in your day-to-day life. And they some shaman will say don't do ayahuasca more than about once a month because you need to integrate the experience. Doing it too often, you have a lot of learnings in each journey, and then they haven't been fully integrated yet. So I think the reason why you want to go again, the reason why I wanted to go again, is because I wanted to peel back the onion, integrate the experience, spend the time to have that integration, and then go again and see if I can peel back another layer, get deeper, and find out what else is deep inside.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, utterly agree. And I feel in quantum healing hypnosis, when being a practitioner and receiving sessions, I honestly feel similarities to an extent to ayahuasca. Do you feel
Hmm.
that way?
Oh, absolutely. I actually think it's a very similar experience. And so if somebody can be hypnotized, they can have a lot of uh, the teachings, the learnings that you get in a good ayahuasca journey. So, eh, but at the same time, some people are resistant to plant medicines, and so hypnosis is better for them. Flip side of that is, especially for me, working with people, working with a lot of guys, to me, and this is my experience, is they seem to need something tangible. They will respond to me when I approach them about QHHT with things like, oh, it's fantasy, it's imagination, I'm making that up. You don't believe in that, do you? Very, typical left brain male approach, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe I'm being stereotypical there, but that is the group of people that I came across, and that is my experience. I worked in finance before, and a lot of people there are very left-brained, very analytical types. And so, to me, plant medicine is unique in the sense that you consume something and you have this experience. Whereas with QHHT, you lie on a bed or a treatment table or a sofa and you have the experience. And I feel quite strongly that for certain guys, maybe certain women too, the idea that you consume something and something happened makes it more tangible in this material 3D world that we live in.
Yeah, it's quantifiable because then they're like, wait a minute, I did this and therefore this happened. But then when you're in hypnosis, then all these questions come up. I'm like, really? Did I really see that? Was I really seeing this in a past life? Did I really see this? Did I make it up in my head? I agree. I almost feel like ayahuasca can maybe help a lot of left brainers to really bring down that that wall, you know. I mean, look
Hmm.
at you.
Hmm.
I would say you're definitely left brain. You've got this financial, amazing resume, yet you're so open. I mean, that's amazing to have both sides there for you. So that led you to be open enough to be a hypnosis practitioner and to do plant medicine. So good for you. That's amazing.
Hmm. Yeah, well, thank you for that. I did have a lot of encouragement from my higher self to do plant medicine because of the work that you start to do. As I think once you become a practitioner, you realize in dealing with other people's issues and helping them deal with their issues, because people heal themselves, we just facilitate the process. But in being exposed to those issues, you realize how much more work you can do on yourself. And plant medicine is just another tool in the toolbox that goes right along with meditation or taking care of yourself by eating right and exercise and spending time in nature. There's a lot of different things you can do, and plant medicine is one of those tools.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely was closed off, like I said, to plant medicine. I had my assumptions, just like, you said, where like, oh, people just go crazy or what have you. And here I am in public discussing it. And,
Mhm,
what a change. So I'm
mhm,
so happy the plant is there. I definitely love the experience. My family totally supported me. My parents, my husband, everyone supported me on this. I definitely wish I would have met the plant earlier. I mean, I really truly feel like I did 10 years of therapy in like a matter of 2 days, you know?
mhm,
It's not
mhm,
for everyone. There are some dangers that associated with it. I mean, there's um, seizures or, even worse. But
mhm,
if you're in a safe environment, and
mhm,
I think it's a great tool to have in your toolbox. So I'm totally agree with you. So
mhm.
now let's talk about what are you going to be doing more ayahuasca? What are your thoughts on that? Will you do more journeys in Orlando?
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, the current situation is if I went to Orlando, I'd be quarantined back here in Canada for 2 weeks. So, it's a lot bigger commitment than it was before, where I just got on a plane on Thursday and come home on Monday. Um, so there are places here that I could probably go, but Orlando has a great support network, and I really enjoy that. I really think that that's important. I have heard not to put down anybody doing a retreat out of their home, because people do what they have to do. But at the same time, I've heard people have bumpy rides. Sometimes there's disagreements between people attending a ceremony, for example, and at a proper retreat, there's support staff there that basically keeps everybody safe, and that's important to me.
Yeah.
So I've just worked less on ayahuasca and more on Iboga, actually, since around the middle of January. Yeah.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about Iboga. So it's basically a tree bark, correct?
Yeah, it's actually the root of a tree that grows in Central West Africa, primarily Gabon, but Cameroon, the DRC, and maybe a few other countries there. And the root was discovered around, I believe, 400 years ago, according to the legend, that it had some properties, the psychotropic properties. And so the Bwiti tribe was one of the first tribes there to use it in ceremonial practices, much like the shamans and the tribes do in the Amazon with ayahuasca. Uh, I think that for me, in my experience and also reading online, I found that ayahuasca was more feminine and a more softer touch, and ayahuasca is more masculine, more in your face. And I like working with it because maybe because that's what I need.
I love hearing about your journeys when you do Iboga. But yeah, I'm sticking, like, if I do anything, it'll definitely be only ayahuasca. And people who hear that only ayahuasca think, like, wow, that's major. But yeah, for you to do Iboga, that's amazing. I mean, wow. It's
Mhm.
definitely a masculine energy because I felt what they said that ayahuasca was a female energy. I totally felt that. Very,
Yeah.
very soft, but I'm sorry, it was not a easy peasy ride. Like it was rough. Like she definitely showed me some
Mhm.
things that needed to be addressed. Like I said, I didn't know I was controlling,
Mm.
my entire
Mm.
life. I had no one in my life ever told me I was controlling.
Wow. Mm. So some other ayahuasca told you.
Oh, she told me. Oh, she told me. So
Mhm.
it was very interesting. There's a lot of things that I learned about myself on the plant, and I'm sure you have too.
Mhm.
So if we could talk a little bit more about the Iboga. So with Iboga, how long is the journey?
Yeah, so it's an interesting comparison because like I said, I could get on a plane here on Thursday, be in Orlando for a ceremony of ayahuasca on a Friday night, do another ceremony on Saturday night, and basically be back home on Monday. So that's two ceremonies. Um, with Iboga, it's a lot longer of a journey. If you were to take Iboga on a Friday night, for example, you'd still be journeying on Saturday, maybe Saturday night, you could still be journeying. So it's a long journey. It can be 12 hours. I've heard of people going longer. And then typically,
Sorry.
because you're journeying for so long and you're awake so long, um, you need another day for recuperation. So if you were to, consume on a Friday,
Mhm.
the earliest you might even possibly consider, realistically, maybe there's exceptions, but realistically, you might not even want to start consuming again on a Monday. And this is why a lot of the Iboga retreats are a week long for two journeys. Whereas, like I said, in Orlando for ayahuasca, you can have two journeys over a weekend.
Wow, that's intense. Because with ayahuasca, it took me days to consume.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Mm-hmm.
definitely, and that was again half a dose.
Yeah,
Can you
that
imagine?
was the right dose for you.
Oh my God, totally. And the first one just spilled, so I definitely would only consume half. So I know my body. So I just know. And I think that's the important thing here for the listeners, that if you, this is your body, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I think what you can handle and not handle.
Mm-hmm.
And I stuck to my guns. I said, no, I'm gonna do half a dose. But there's times that I was like, am I really doing the right thing? But really, truly, the amount of learning and healing that I achieved with the plant, I'm satisfied with the half. And I think, So now
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go backwards a little bit, which was a question that was on my mind. When you said on the ayahuasca journeys, you mentioned that you didn't let go on
Mm-hmm.
your first journeys. What do you mean by that? So you would just go to sleep, and then um, did you have any images, or did you see anything? Did you feel anything? I mean, how was it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, on my first two journeys, actually, I did let go. That was in Cusco. But for some reason, the next five journeys in Orlando, I resisted quite a bit. So for five journeys, I didn't purge. I didn't have any visuals. I had a few feelings. By visuals, I mean fractals and those kind of visuals. I did have some flashback like images, pictures of myself from maybe my childhood or maybe different interactions with other people, but I felt like I had been resisting, and so yeah, I would have some feelings and some pictures, and then I would just kind of fall asleep and not even purge, and that was five journeys like that.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think the purging is definitely a major part. I received so much healing from the actual purge part of my journey. So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely do see how that can help. But there were some
Mm-hmm.
people when I did it in July that didn't purge, but I don't know, it just depends. When you're holding on or not holding on. You truly
Mm-hmm.
know. And I would say um, I will be going back again in the winter on a Sunday, just to do a Sunday morning, or I'm sorry, a Saturday morning one. And I'm still probably going to do half a dose.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I love QHHT sessions, and I love just working on myself and expanding consciousness. I mean, what are you trying to achieve with all of your work? Because you're doing a lot of work. I mean, I really do see From the moment I met you to now, which I met you in May of 2019, right?
We met in Mount Shasta in September 2019.
September, I'm sorry, September. So
Union for UHHT.
yeah, and when I met you, I was like, oh my gosh, he's an amazing person, great soul, so nice. But really, I do see what you mean with the plant medicine doing its thing, because I do see the shift, and people see the shift in me.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
it does really help. I know it can be scary and intimidating. I mean, was your heart racing when you first did it?
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect. And, one thing that is a really big difference with QHHT and plant medicine, whether it's Iboga or ayahuasca or maybe magic mushrooms or something else, is with QHHT, if the client wants to stop, they can just stop anytime. If they're having an uncomfortable experience for whatever reason, physical, emotional, mental, usually we have them in trance for up to 2.5 hours. If they want to stop after 30 minutes, they can just stop. They can get off the ride. But with ayahuasca and these other plant medicines, once you get on that ride, you're on that ride for the duration. There is no, get off halfway through easily. And I guess that does create anxiety for me every time that I do it, for sure.
Yeah. Now, with psilocybin compared to ayahuasca, what would you say is the difference?
That's a good question. I mean, to be honest, I don't know if I've really done the mega doses like Terence McKenna recommends, where he sees the machine elves, I believe. But I have done, enough to experience astral travel and going around the universe and, feeling unconditional love for every being on Earth. Uh, so I do think it's similar. It's hard to answer that, and I haven't actually, to be honest, I haven't actually worked that much with the psilocybin.
Mhm.
Um, I did have a bit of a tricky experience with psilocybin, which has sort of affected me a little bit. I was with a friend. I was working and living in Japan, and with a friend, we would often go to the Philippines because the Philippines have these amazing islands with beaches. And so we were on Boracay Island, which in 1986 BMW Owners Magazine said it was the most beautiful beach in the world. So we would go there. I've been there a few times, and there was a lady in a little hut, and she would sell magic mushroom jam. And so we would buy the jam and we would put it on a croissant or a muffin around dinner time. And then the visuals and the ocean and the pink of the sun setting, it was fantastic. And we would go to this nightclub on the beach and dance and party all night. Well, this one night, there's one night we went to see her, and she said, "Well, the variety that you guys consume, I only have one jar left." But I also have this other jar of this other magic mushroom. It was jam. It was marmalade that we put on croissants.
Mhm.
She said, I only have one of each. And me and my friend, we would usually buy a jar each. And we were like, oh, gee, you only have one jar. And she said, well, you can buy two jars, but they're different varieties. Don't mix them. So we had these two different jars of this magic mushroom jam, and we took the first one and we split it, and it was only half a jar, so we were kind of like a little bit let down. So we thought, oh, it'll be okay, right? It'll be okay. We'll have the different jar, even though she told us not to. And so we each also had a half jar of this different variety. Oh my God. Could not get out of the bungalow we were staying in on the beach, could not move, didn't want to drink. We were just like beside ourselves. And we kept telling ourselves, it'll be over soon, it'll be over soon. It just got worse and worse. And so
Oh,
finally we said, okay, if it's going to keep getting worse like this, we got to go back to her. So we go back to her, knocked on her door, and we said, sorry, we broke your rule. We had both jars. And she said, okay. She said, the antidote is you have to get a lot of marijuana, and you have to smoke marijuana continuously until it wears off. And that's what we did. We got some marijuana.
oh, oh,
We smoked
interesting.
marijuana the whole time.
So that marijuana just kind of calms the anxiety, I'm guessing. or what
Yeah.
did you do?
Yeah, it calmed us down, the anxiety. There was a lot of anxiety, a lot of emotions.
Mhm.
It almost felt like you're trying to work with two different varieties of magic mushrooms at the same time. You know,
Wow.
two different spirits at the same time. It's and I appreciate why she told us not to do that. But the marijuana helped a lot. But since then, I've kind of been a bit gun shy about the magic mushrooms. It's a fear that at some point I'll have to deal with.
Right. Now, I know that they say sometimes when you take, um, when you smoke marijuana with ayahuasca, that can actually prolong the ayahuasca journey. Is that correct? I've heard that.
I've heard of that. I've heard that some tribes in some countries in South America smoke marijuana. I haven't tried that myself with with ayahuasca. With Iboga, I have you know, as the journey gets to the end of the journey, say it's a 12-hour journey, after say 10 hours, I consume some magic mushrooms, and that's really interesting. That's a lot of fun. And then after the magic mushrooms wear off, if the iboga will still be there, and I'll consume some marijuana, and that's a really
Yeah.
fun journey as well.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's the thing. I mean, you use the word fun. That's amazing. I dare not say fun for my journeys, but listen, you've got the guts, man, for to do Iboga and ayahuasca a few times. I mean, you really do. I'm definitely preparing myself to do that one journey because I don't know if I can physically handle two back to back, So, I mean, that's amazing that you go in and you're doing that work. I mean,
no,
really.
no, you have so much courage. I mean, you have no idea. Like anybody who can do even one ayahuasca journey, I just think it represents so much courage, because society has drilled into our minds that, or at least they've tried to drill into our minds, that these things are bad and they're scary, and all these negative connotations. And that belief system has to be overcome. And it's a belief system that we may have in ourselves, but also our friends and our family may have it too. And to overcome that is just, I think it represents a lot of courage. So
Oh,
hats off
thank
to you.
you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I have an interesting question for you. Let's see what you say about this. W- our children, I guess mine is 21. And how old is your older one?
17, my daughter's 17, my son's 11.
So I guess when they're, whenever she's older, whatever you feel comfortable, would you even recommend your child to do it?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I had actually arranged last fall that my daughter was going to go to Soul Quest in Orlando. I had worked it out with the owners there. They had invited her. They said everything was fine. And in the end, it didn't work out with her schedule because, you know, she's still in high school. But there was a period of time that it was going ahead. And so I would definitely support that.
Yeah, same with me. My daughter, after my journeys, even though my second one was like super rough, like, I mean, face down on the grass, like just
Mm.
a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I definitely recommend it for my daughter, even my husband. My
Mhm.
husband's a little like, yeah, I don't know, I'm okay.
Mhm.
But my
Mhm.
daughter said maybe one day she will. But I highly
Mhm.
recommend it. So, yeah, I mean, I really think it's a shame that it has a stigma. I mean, in the Amazon and these tribes, I mean, this is their culture, this is their practice, this is basically their way of life. And then
Mhm.
the Western culture is like completely demonized. Plant medicine when it's there to help people. I mean,
Mhm.
really. So, I mean, let's talk a little political about it. Let's talk about a day that maybe this will be legal. I mean, I hope in the United States they're talking about it being legal maybe in the next year or two. You know, I know that that's a little battle going on. Do you know the latest on
Mhm.
that?
I know that MAPS, which is one of the organizations involved in lobbying and doing a lot of research, I think his name is Rick Doblin, the head of MAPS. has said that he expects psychedelics to be decriminalized in Canada and the US by 2020 or 2021. So around,
Mhm.
well, 2021 probably. But I think there's a lot of initiatives for sure. But at the same time, I feel that a lot of the lobbying that's going on is coming from research that's being done on psychedelics, which is using only what the pharmaceutical industry deems to be the active compound in the plant medicine.
Right. I heard about that. Playing God with genetics.
Because
You
that's how they're going to get the money. Because if they can prove that the active ingredient in ayahuasca is good for anxiety and depression, and if they can patent that and make a pharmaceutical drug out of it, they'll sell a lot of money. So that pharmaceutical company is then incentivized to bankroll the research and the studies.
yeah.
Whereas plant medicine is basically, it's free. It comes from Mother Nature. So Mother Nature doesn't need any finances to grow ayahuasca vines in the middle of the Amazon. So the way our society and our world is set up right now is there's no financial incentive for people to do that.
Well, hopefully, if it does get decriminalized in a year or two, I'm hoping there'll be more centers opening up like Soul Quest. Definitely, Soul
Mhm,
Quest for me was very professional. I would not want to see places not open. I would not want to see places open that are not as professional as them with the psychologists and EMT and all the support
mhm,
staff that they have. I
mhm,
definitely hope that when it does become legal, they do have a lot of support
mhm,
staff for people when they
mhm,
do embark on this journey. So
mhm,
let's
mhm,
hope and pray it'll go that way. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a really good experience for me. I feel like the plant is still with me. How about you? Do you feel that way too? That the
mhm,
ayahuasca kind of just hangs out, or Iboga, and you're still
mhm.
processing things from time to time?
Yeah, it like opens a door, and once that door is opened, you might feel that it closes a little bit, but it's always there. You can always revisit the journey. And well, I already do that on my meditation. Some people can meditate for 4 hours and have amazing experiences. And for me, I'm not quite there yet. So it's actually a really good experience to use plant medicine to give yourself like a mental goal of where you want your meditation to go. It's like, oh, okay, so if somebody else can see the same thing as ayahuasca during meditation, then if I hone my meditation practice and if I know what I saw on ayahuasca, then that's my target.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going.
Okay.
That's where I want to go. So I think it really has a benefit in that sense as well. Otherwise, people can talk about their meditation experience, but if I'm not there yet, I can't I can't really live that experience yet.
Absolutely. I agree. I mean, I see what you're saying.
It's
I
like wanting to go and live in a big house and but you can't afford it yet, but you want to visualize it, so you go and rent it for an Airbnb for a weekend just to live in a big house and go and just be able to really visualize that experience.
Right, absolutely. Now, what do you recommend for anyone that's thinking about starting out with ayahuasca? Any pointers or any things that you can advise them before they start on their first journey? Just from experience
Well,
that
yeah,
you've
yeah.
learned.
I mean, from my experience, it was questioning my own beliefs and whether they were truths or not, and whether there could be other truths that
Mhm.
might serve me better. Questioning how I might have been conditioned or programmed to be, against ayahuasca, and then meditation and soul searching and really asking myself and if it was something that I could benefit from. And basically, the answer was yes. So I believe the answer is inside all of us. The idea of going outside, talking to people. If I ask 5 people whether I should do ayahuasca or not, and all of them say yes, I'm going to do it. That's not the right approach. Don't ask anybody
Yeah.
except yourself.
Yeah, I actually did that, and it got a little still I needed to feel it in me. And when I felt the clarity in me is when I was able to approach ayahuasca with clear mind, and it really helps that I really have an amazing supportive family system too. That's just like, no, you want to go ahead and do some inner work, like go for it. So I definitely love the experience. I know some people experience not so great experiences with it. I definitely encourage people to read up on the pros and cons and what the dangers could be. I mean, there are
Right.
dangers, but for me, I wanted to do this series, and I'm so honored to have had you on here. Um, and we could perhaps do some more discussions, a little bit about our journeys, and dabble a little bit about our QHHT experiences as well.
Mhm.
So most definitely. And for me, I'll probably be doing ayahuasca again in the winter of 2021. That's probably when I'm going to go in and approach it. And I'll probably talk about my experience then as well. I'm
Mhm.
totally pro on anyone that wants to do that inner work. And this is it's sad because people label it, but it's helped so many people with PTSD, with
Mhm.
anxieties, with depression,
Yeah.
that it's definitely worth taking a look at,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to hear about your next journey as soon as you have it. So you phone me first.
I'll definitely call you because it's always an interesting conversation when someone comes back from their journey, like you did when you did your last Iboga. And I was like, totally, like, wow, listening to you, like, that's amazing, David. But
Much.
yeah, it's amazing to hear about it. It's definitely amazing to hear about it. So thank you so much for coming on, and take care, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me on. And I had a lot of fun, and appreciate your time too.
All right, take care. Bye, David.
Take care. Bye.